It hurts. Pete Pribble's daughter, or wife, she's out of town. It's 14.
All right, we'll go ahead and call back to order the Board of Wildlife Commissioners meeting on May 14th here in Reno. The video feeds to Elko in Las Vegas. Before the lunch, we're in the middle of item 25, Commission Regulation 16-12, 2016 big game quotas for the 16 and 17 seasons. And we had wrapped up all our bear, antelope, bighorn sheep, mountain goat quotas, and we are now on page 10, I believe, of the support material, starting with resident elk, antlered, any illegal weapon, depredation hunts, 4102. Am I right on that, Mike? Page
yes.
10?
Let's go ahead and we'll address with a motion for both the antlered and antlerless any illegal weapon depredation hunts, which is 4102 and 4107, and there were no alternative recommendations for either.
Okay. Any questions by the Commission on either of the two depredation hunts? For discussion? Any advisory board input? Public comment in Las Vegas on depredation elk?
No comment, Las Vegas.
Elko?
No comment.
And Reno? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the Commission. If there's no further discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve elk, antlered, any legal weapon depredation hunt 4102 and resident elk, antlerless, any legal weapon hunt depredation hunt 4107 as presented by the department.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Wallace, a second by Commissioner McNinch to approve hunts 4102 and 4107 as presented by the department. Are there any questions or discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 6-0, and we are down 3 commissioners. I'll just remind everyone, Valentine, Young, and Bliss today, so 6-0. Okay, that'll take us to the bottom of page 10, resident elk, antlered, any legal weapon hunt 4151.
All right, this is the flagship of our bull elk hunting. We do have alternative recommendations for this antlered any legal weapon 4151 hunt from Elko, Lincoln, and White Pine.
And Mike, I believe Elko's recommendations were for 7.6, 7, 7.9, 8.1, early and late. Cut
Yes.
to 95 and 90. Lincoln's was 231 late to go from 65 to 60. And if you could give me White Pines, I have it sitting up here.
Yep. So it'll be for the unit group 111 and unit groups 221. So the 111 early, drop it from 130 to 115. The 111 through 115 late, drop it from 110 to 105. The 221 through 223, drop the early from 85 to 80, and then the late is 80 to 75.
Okay. Any initial thoughts on the recommended adjustments?
Certainly in the Eastern Elko County 076 unit group, we're still trying to reduce that herd, and so as we talked earlier, we've got a disproportionate number of bulls as we harvest a tremendous number of cows out of that herd. So I know there's concern about average age and bull quality. We think making a commensurate bull quota in relation to the cows, and this is the venue to talk about the social aspect of those population objectives and how it affects the bull quality. We do realize that certainly average age and all the other metrics for 076 are not stellar or statewide top of the list, but they're still not bad. The 231 in the area 11 and 22 changes. I think you're going to see movement between the weapon classes and on those changes from reducing the rifle, but making a slight increase in muzzleloader and archery tags to try to shift some of the tags around, but maybe not necessarily the total harvest.
Yeah, and just going into the cab discussion and input, if you guys, if the thought was to kind of reallocate some of those tags amongst weapon groups, please let us know, because it looked like, at least in a couple cases, and the one I'm not sure on is Elko, that was kind of the thinking, is that maybe they're pulling out any legal weapon hunt, but they're adding them back into some of the others. So just let us know up front if that was kind of the line of thinking you had at your cab meeting. Any other questions or discussion? County Advisory Board input on resident elk antlered any legal weapon hunt 4151?
Firm one, your elbow. This one was a 3-2 vote. We had 2 people that wanted to lower it back to last year's standard on 0767981. And 3 of us had voted to just reduce it to 95 and 90. It was a pretty heated discussion. We didn't move any of those tags. So it was a 3-2 vote. 2 of them wanted to take it lower than what it is, what we brought it. And 3 of us elected to go with the 95-90.
Did you guys in that unit subsequently raise the spike tags? Did I see that, or am I getting that confused?
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, thank you.
Ray Sawyer, White Pine County. So basically what we're asking to do is in Area 11, 111 through 115 early, we are asking for a 15 tag reduction there. And we're actually, later on, we're going to request to move those into the muzzleloader hunt. And with the late hunt in Area 111 through 115, we're asking for a 5 tag reduction there. And we want to move those 5 tags into the 111 through 115 archery hunt. And the same with 221, 223 early. We're asking for a 5 tag reduction from 85 to 80, moving those 5 tags into the muzzleloader hunt. And then on the late hunt, the 221 through 223, taking 5 tags from there and put into the archery hunt. Basically just to try to eliminate a little hunter congestion on that rifle hunt when you start getting 100 plus or something, especially in Area 11, with 4 or 5 vehicles of people hunting with everybody. There just seems to be a lot of added hunters out there, and so same with 22. So we're just trying to eliminate some hunting pressure. We're really not moving the numbers, so to speak, as far as their maximum total. We're just asking to just allocate them differently.
Appreciate the explanation on that.
For the record, Corey Live with Lincoln Cab. Yeah, 231 late. I really don't have a earth-shattering justification for 5 fewer tags. We just kind of wanted to line them up with the early hunt. It's still a slight increase from last year. And we didn't discuss it in too much length. It was more of a kind of that social aspect and lining them up that way. As a cab, we didn't vote on it, but speaking on behalf of myself, if Mike or Cody feel that taking those 5 tags away on that late rifle hunt in 231, if we want to add a couple back on the muzzleloader hunt, I have no personal issue with it. So.
Bob Cook with the Douglas County Cab. I didn't hear you mention it, Jeremy, but the Douglas Cab was recommending a deer and elk tag in area 081.
Run that by me again. You were recommending
Deer and elk tags?
so the combination tags. Okay, understood. I don't think we can do that today because it was in season setting, but I think the department will make a note to consider that when we do season structures for next year.
For the cow management.
Yep.
Yes. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Additional county advisory board inputs? Okay. Let's see, public input from Las Vegas on antlered elk.
No public input. Thank you, Chairman.
And elk, thank you, and Elko,
No comment.
and Reno. Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Any further questions or discussion? Commissioner Johnston?
Yes. Oh, is there a
Discussion?
motion?
You're
Oh,
teed up.
Yeah, if there's not, I don't think there is any further discussion. I would entertain a motion.
I'll take a shot at it. Mr. Chairman, move to approve the resident elk antler and illegal weapon hunt 4151 as presented, but with the following changes. The 076, 077, 079, 081 early hunt, reduction from 110 to 95 tags. And the 076, 077, 079, 081, and 081 late hunt, reduction from 100 to 90 tags. 111, 115 early hunt, reduction from 130 to 115 tags. 111 to 115 late hunt, reduction from 110 to 105 tags. The 221, 223 early hunt, reduction from 85 to 80 tags. And 221 to 223 late hunt, reduction from 80 to 75 tags. And 231 late hunt, reduction from 65 to 60 tags. Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Johnston and a second by Commissioner Morai to approve the resident elk antlered any legal weapon hunt 4151 as presented by the department and incorporating in all of the recommended cab changes. So area 7-8 early would go to 95, 7-8 late would go to 90, 11 would go to 115, 11 late would go to 105, 22 would go to 80, 22 late would go to 75, and 23 late would go to 60. Is there any question or discussion on the motion?
Just for discussion purposes, I'll note, I think it was, given the fact we're really changing weapon classes on a lot of these tags, I think it's consistent within the and department did not seem to have real issues with that, so go along with what the cabs want to do and reallocating tags in that regard.
Agreed. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. That will take us to page 11, and this is the resident elk antlerless elk any management, elk management any legal weapon hunt 4481 option for antlered elk 4151. So this is the elk tag, correct, Mike?
Yes, cow management tag with your bull tag. There was just some comments from Carson City, and we just heard from Douglas on considering for next year maybe some cow management tags with the deer hunt and the bull hunt, with no other alternate tag recommendations.
Okay. Any questions for Mike on this one? County Advisory Board inputs? Public comment in Las Vegas?
No public comment in Las Vegas. Thank you.
And Elko?
No comment.
And Reno? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. If there's no further discussion, I'd entertain a motion on Hunt 4151.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the resident elk antlerless elk management any legal weapon hunt 4481 option for antlered elk hunt 4151 as presented.
Second. A motion by Commissioner Johnston, a second by Commissioner Wallace to approve Hunt 4151 as presented. Is there any discussion or question on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries 6-0. And we'll open resident elk antlered muzzleloader hunt 4156. And let's try to also do 4161, the archery hunt, at the same time.
All right, so I guess I would ask for a little compromise, since you accepted Elko County's rifle tag reductions, is maybe should we keep the 20 muzzleloader tags and 7.6 units instead of having that drop to 15? And then, as it was Corey Lila with Lincoln County, possibly throw a few more tags in the 231 muzzleloader hunt, offset those 5 tags. He was reduced in the rifle. And then you'll have white pine. I'll give you the white pines, which is not on your list. White pine's recommendations for the 4156 muzzleloader hunt is to increase tags, offset some of those that they recommended lower than the rifle. 111 going from 15 to 30, that unit group, and then the 221 unit group going from 15 to 20. And then in addition to that, they also had in the Cherry Creeks, which is 104, 108, 121, wanted to provide some hunting opportunity, and that is going, they want to recommend that going from 3 to 8, which is the 104, 108, 121 unit group, from 3 to 8.
Okay.
And you have Nye County's recommendation to reduce the muzzleloader rut hunt from 15 to 10.
Any questions on the muzzleloader hunt on page 11? Bless you. On page 11. Okay. So let's step through resident elk antlered archery hunt 4161 at the same time on page 12, because I think there's some commensurate. I mean, there are no recommended changes there.
White pine had some adjustments, and again, it's weapon class shifting. So they wanted an increase in muzzleloader for that 104, 108, 121. They want a 5 tag reduction from 15 to 10 for that same unit group for the archery hunt. 104, 108, 121. For the 111 unit group, raise it up 5 tags from 30 to 35. And for the 221 unit group, raise it 5 tags up to 30.
Has everyone got those proposed changes? Any questions for my comments? Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Just real quick.
Commissioner Wallace.
Mike, on the Nye County adjustment from 15 to 10, does the department have any issues with that?
I mean, I know the unwritten verbal agreement out there was, regardless of weapon class that gets rotated into the red hunt, 10 to 12 tags seem to have been the common tag quota, but we know that things are doing well in there, Central Nevada, and we just suggested 15. Age structure seems to be pretty good, so we do admit that, yeah, it's probably going to be close to 100% success. It's not that the muzzleloader in the right is going to be, 60%. It's probably going to be higher, but I think the herd can support an extra 5 tags. Let people live the dream.
Commissioner Hubbs, did you have a question? Okay. Anything else? All right, County Advisory Board input on elk antlered muzzleloader for archery hunts.
Fernwinder for Alpha Cavalier. On 060, 076, 077, 079, 081, they did recommend, or we did, to cut it to 15 because of the elk quality is what the big discussion was. That they don't have the, quote, big bulls in there. that all the bulls are getting smaller, like you said. That was the main reason for that cut.
Ray Sawyer, White Pine County. I guess I should apologize also for not having our paperwork turned in on time. Secretary had some computer problems. She was out of town in Portland, and for some reason it wouldn't work, so I do apologize for not having our numbers into you earlier. So are we addressing both hunts?
That's both the muzzleloader
Okay.
and
So
the archery.
in the muzzleloader, the 4156, the 104, 108, 121, the 5 tag increase in that accounts for the 5 tag decrease in the archery numbers for that same unit. And along with what I said earlier, the 115 or 111 through 115, we asked for a 15 tag increase, and that again we took from the other, and the 221, 223 on the muzzleloader, we're asking for a 5 tag increase, take it from 15 to 20. On the archery hunts, the 111 through 115, we're asking for a 5 tag increase, and again that was just a decrease in 5 tags from the late hunt in that same unit. And the same with 221, 223, we're asking for a 5 tag increase, take it from 25 to 30, and moving 5 tags from that late into the archery. So there, on all 3 hunts, there's no, the total quota stayed the same for what we're asking. We're just moving numbers again.
Thank you.
For the record, Corey Lytle, Lincoln Cab. Even though our cab didn't vote on this, I think I can feel pretty comfortable in saying that on the 231 unit, or the unit 231 and the muzzleloader, if we bump from 8 to 12, I don't think it's a deal breaker. The success there last year was pretty low, about 33%. Might mean 2 more elk on the ground, so 12 okay in 4156.
Take whatever we can get.
Okay.
Sean Shea, Washington County. Sorry, we were a little late, so you guys might have mentioned this, but in that 4161, ours was blank in 076. So I just want to make sure you guys realize that that should be 40 tags they put in there. Okay?
No, we're going to give you 0.
Yeah.
That is 40 is
40 is correct. I just want to make sure it's put in there so you guys see that. Other than that, we, this is really on our unit. We didn't have too much to say, except I'm sure that was correct.
good catch. Additional county advisory board input on elk? Okay, seeing none. Public comment from Las Vegas on elk muzzleloader.
No public
archery.
comment in Las Vegas.
And Elko.
No comment.
Okay, and Reno. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission. Any further questions or discussion? Commissioner McNinch?
I'm ready. I'll make a motion.
Okay, get you up. I don't see any other comments.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve President Elk Antler Muzzleloader Hunt 4156 as presented with the following changes. 076, I'm sorry, leave that as it is. 104, 108, 121 from 3 to 8. 115 to 1115 from 15 to 30. 221 through 223, 15 to 20. 231, 8 to 12. And to approve resident elk antler archery hunt 4161 as recommended by the department, to include 076, 077, 079, 081 as 40.
Thank you.
As well as the following changes: 104, 108, 121 from 15 to 10, 115, 111 through 115, 30 to 35, and 221 through 223 from 25 to 30.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner McNinch and a second by Commissioner Wallace to approve resident elk antler muzzleloader hunt 4156 as presented by the department with the following changes as proposed by the County Advisory Board. In 104, 108, 121, we would go to 8. In 111 to 115, we'd go to 30. In 221 to 223, we would go to 20. And in 231, we would go to 12. So the two cab recommendations that are not included are Elko for 7 and 8, as well as 16, 17. Okay. And then on resident elk antler archery hunt 4161, motion is approved per department recommendations to ensure that 076777981 is actually 40 instead of blank. 104, 108, 121 would go from 15 to 10. Area 11 would go from 30 to 35. And area 22 would go from 25 to 30. So that incorporates all County Advisory Board recommendations. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, question or discussion on the motion? I would just say as far as the Elko County portion goes with 7.6, 7.7, 7.9, and 8.1, I understand the quality argument. I also understand 5 tags probably isn't going to make or break us, but I do think providing that opportunity, I don't think 20 tags in a unit that big is going to be an issue from a congestion standpoint. So just trying to make sure we don't cut our overall quotas too much. So I'll be supportive of the motion. Is there any other discussion or question? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Which puts us on to page 12. Resident elk spike and illegal weapon hunt 4651.
Elko County requested the 076 unit group go back to the 2015 quotas that we had, which were higher than what we're recommending. Our philosophy was reduce the spike tags a bit and increase the regular bull tags. So Elko County reduced the regular bull tags and would like to see the spike tags back up.
And I think with the changes we've already made, I think overall bull quotas with the numbers they recommended are right at or very close to what was recommended overall.
Probably so.
As is. Okay. Any questions or discussion? All right, County Advisory Board input on spike elk.
Turn Winter, Elko County. Yeah, we did ask to take them back up to 2015 quotas on the spike. For the same reason he had said was bull quality. So they wanted to take more spikes out for the overall number of bulls. Yeah, and they were warned, everybody was warned there that could leave a gap in future years for bigger bulls.
Okay. Additional County Advisory Board input on spike hunts. Okay, public input in Las Vegas. On spike hunts, no. And in Elko?
No comment.
Okay, anything in Reno on spike hunts? Public comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission. If there's no further discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve elk spike and illegal weapon hunt 4651 as presented by the department with the following changes to 076081 early from 15 to 20, mid from 15 to 20, and late from 10 to 20.
Second.
So I've got a motion by Commissioner Wallace, a second by Commissioner McNinch to adopt hunt 4651 elk spike as proposed by the department with the proposed changes by the Elko Cab to area 76777981 early to be 20 tags, mid to be 20 tags, and late to be 20 tags. Is there any question or discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 6-0, which puts us to resident elk antlerless any legal weapon hunt 4181. And maybe let's try and grab the wilderness only on page 13 as well.
All right, so going to try to represent Echo County's recommendation correctly. I believe slightly different than what you have printed. That their recommendation at their advisory board meeting was to accept the unit group 061 and 71 cow rifle tags as we recommended this year, but to go back to our 2015 quotas in all other unit groups in Elko County.
So Mike, can you step through those for us? Just for those of
Yes.
us who may not be familiar with the geography.
All right, so again, the 061, 71, early, mid, late, there they supported our 395 and 130.
Mike, before you move on, that, unless I'm reading this wrong, conflicts with what's written in the...
Yes,
Okay.
and
All right.
as I misrepresented
Okay,
that
just wanted to make sure.
in that summary. So disregard that statement or cross it out and say instead of 062 through 068, they're supportive of the 061 and 71 unit group quotas for this year, but would like to go back to the 2015 and the others. So the next would be the 062, 068 early, mid, late. We had 305 in the early, 70 in the mid, and 150 in the late. Point to make is, if you look at the season dates, we've got our deer hunts start on October 5, and that's been a problem with hunter congestion with the deer hunt and sizable cow elk hunts. So that's why we reduced it all the way down to 20. And then the late season, I guess there's not a lot of other hunts out there, if any, there, but I'll come back to that. Maybe a little bit of a compromise. 065 is the same. 072 would go back early mid, back up to 275 and 225. 073 early and mid, but actually one would go down and one would go up. But you can see the 2015 quoted column is just to the right of that, so it's going to include 074, 075 early mid, 072, 75 late, which would actually go down. The 076 unit groups, some would go down, some would go up. And then Spruce Mountain unit group is 078 through 109. That would stay the same at 50. So those are the primary unit groups. Now, if you wanted, was there ones that you didn't want as part of that all Elko County?
Yeah,
Or is that?
it was all Elko County.
Okay.
I'll explain more to you.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. So the 2015 to 2016 aerial surveys showed that they were more or less 2,000 short or less than they had observed in 2014. Is that correct?
Yeah, and some of that is effort, survey effort. So the survey, our primary goal output from the survey is a calf ratio. That's really, we know we're going to see potentially some different number. So it's not necessarily if we survey less animals, there's actually less in the herd. It's just that we didn't find all the groups. We may have only flew 60%, 70% of what we flew the year before. So it's the calf recruitment value, which is the primary metric we want to get out of those surveys, which drives the population model. And we had a fairly high cow harvest last year in most of our unit groups in Elko County. So we started moving, finally, our populations lower, but not below the population objectives. Some are quite above their objectives. So we still need to put a lot of pressure on the cows. And getting back to this October 5 period, we certainly would like to, if we're going to go back to the 2015 quotas, we'd like to consider putting those tags in before that October 5 period. Like 062, we've got that late September hunt where you have a fairly small deer muzzleloader contingent out there, so you don't have a ton of hunters, hunter congestion. Or many of these hunts have an early and a mid and a late season, and the latest of the seasons, there's pretty much nothing else out there except the cow hunters in November to January. So we'd ask you maybe consider putting those tags, before the October 5 period where all the deer hunters are out there, or in those November, January periods.
Questions of Mike?
My only concern is there were a lot of changes or variations that I'm not 100% aware of because they're so specific to location and they weren't on the little sheet that we have, so it's hard for me to know exactly how drastically different their suggestion would be. But it seems like, for me, it's that if they want to revert back to the 2015, that more or less this would increase the number harvested overall. Am I reading that right?
Correct. Yes. Except for, we did shift some of those tag quotas out of that October 5 period. But for the most part, yep. Those 2015 quotas would probably result in a few more cows being harvested.
Okay. Additional questions before we have the cabs come up? Or the ECAB come up? How about we skip on the wilderness right now and handle these changes first? Okay, so County Advisory Board input on elk antlerless and illegal weapon hunt 4181. Elko, I think this is your show right now, so step us through the thought process.
Okay, on this hunt, on the 4181, the thought process was we ended up lost by the time this finally got hammered out. We got people on our cab that wanted more elk, saying we're in the red, so they want more cows gone. Running it as a rancher's aspect. We got too many cows, kill the cows, keep the bulls, so we can get bigger bulls. By the time everything was said and done, this is what came out. 061, 071 early, and late. We support MDOT's rec. All other counties go back down to go to the 2015 recommendations, which would put more cows on the ground.
Was there any discussion, like on the mid-season where you have the deer opener October 5th, about concerns with congestion?
That was brought up by Mitch. And he said hunter congestion, we've been congested up there before. And
I'm looking at my resident expert to my right.
yeah, our resident expert over there.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I think the mindset of the Elko cab, and everything did kind of get confusing, but if you go to the management hunt, 4481, and you look at the quote and recommendations from the department, were to take the 575 delk tags in 2015 and jack that to 1150, double it. Okay? Now, in doubling that, the success rate for that delk hunt was 10% and 8% respectively. Okay? The harvest, the success rate on the 062 through 68 cow hunts were from 21, 27, and I think 29% on the early, mid, and late. So the mindset was that transferring all of those tags with the lower success rate may not be successful into continuing to reduce the population. Now, as far as the congestion issue, at 10% and 8% success on the delks, is the 50 tag or 50 hunter, well, I shouldn't say 50 hunter, 50 tag difference in the October 5 through the October 20, is that going to create more congestion, or is doubling of the delk tags to keep those hunters in the field longer going to continue the congestion rather than many hunters in the past at that low of success? The way I see it, they had a 48% success rate on the mule deer hunt. So that tells me that the hunters, in a lot of cases, were harvesting their deer. They tagged their deer. If they didn't happen to see an elk during that time, they may have left. So I think that nullifies the congestion issue in my mind, and maybe the department or Tom, maybe you'll disagree, but I'd like to hear from them on that front.
Let's get through our cab items. I know you were at the cab meeting, so I was interested to hear your thoughts. Vern, was that?
Yeah, that was it.
Okay. Additional cab input on antlerless? Okay. Public comment in Las Vegas?
No public comment in Las Vegas.
And Elko?
No comment, Elko.
And Reno? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Donham?
Tom Donham, Nevada Department of Wildlife. Bear with me, I think I'm going to touch on a few things here with the antlerless hunt 4181. First of all, Matt's recommendations kind of take into account the fact that the population estimate in we'll call it Big Six, the 062, 64, 66, 68 unit group, we call Big Six, was 1,200 last year. It's 850 this year. So even though the number of tags is going down, Matt is still trying to shoot close to the same proportion of that herd out because it's a smaller herd, and still continue moving towards the population objective. Whether it's last year's quota or this year's quota, I doubt if we're going to get to that population objective in 1 year. And it was kind of agreed upon, I believe, informally. I don't know if that was with Elko County or who, that reduction to population objective would be done over several years instead of trying to take it all at once. just looking at the early, mid, and late Big Six rifle hunts, based on hunter success and the number of tags that the reduction is, we're looking at a reduction of 170 tags total in those 3 hunts, with the success rate would result in about 43 less dead elk this year than last year. And that's out of a smaller herd. So you're talking only 43 less. The delk tags, even though the quota has been doubled basically, we don't anticipate selling all those. We'll probably sell 600 to 700, which would end up with that success being another 15 or 20 elk hitting the ground. So you're only really talking NDOW's recommendations this year and what last year's recommendations were, maybe a difference of 30 dead elk. And again, it's the same or a larger proportion of the actual herd based on population estimate. And I think that's what Matt's looking at. He's still taking out the same proportion of that herd because it's just a smaller number of animals. And for Area 7, just to touch on it real quick, the biggest concern we had with the blanket recommendation by Elko County to go back to 2015 tag levels was the 072, 075 late hunt. What the biologist in Area 7 was trying to do was remove some tags from some of the less successful hunts and move some of those tags into more successful hunts so you could get the same number of dead elk with fewer hunters on the ground out there. So some of those changes were actually based on just moving tags from less successful hunts to more successful hunts. And again, last year in Area 7, the biologist was targeting 32% cow kill. And with this year's recommendations, even though some are up, some are down, she was trying for about a 35% cow kill. So her actual percent of cow kill went up. It will result in fewer dead elk on the ground, without a doubt, but not as much as it looks like, and again, a larger proportion of the herd because we did knock them down last year. So now that I've completely muddied the water, I'll field any questions.
I appreciate the explanation. Questions? Commissioner Moran?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One question that I have, Tom, and I spoke with Matt on it, is that in the 062 through 068 population that he estimated at 800 and whatever it is.
The actual population estimate, I believe, was like 825, but we rounded, so 850.
Okay, now he had a group of 175
yes,
that spent 47% of the time in Idaho. That equates, in my mind, to approximately 85 head of elk that would spend 100% of the time in Nevada. Is that fair to say?
I guess, yeah, you can look at it
figure.
that way,
So I guess that 800 and some population that we were speaking of is actually 900 and some, if you total those animals that are on the border.
Yeah, apparently his caller data that he was using to come up with those numbers takes that into account, so it's not the 850 plus that. The 850 is the population estimate after all that's included. It's already
How many
been taken
animals?
into account, is what I'm saying.
He classified 800 and some animals.
Yes, and some of those were in
actually
Idaho.
laid eyes on.
Some of those were in Idaho. And some probably on Duck Valley.
It is.
I'm here.
Yeah, I can't quite explain it. I'm not sure if you-
Somebody mentioned physics earlier. Without a map here, it's a little tough. But I guess what it comes down to is Big Six. Matt's recommendations, you're looking probably about 30 less dead cows than you were looking at last year, out of a smaller total number of elk in the population, whatever that happens to be. So, again, part of that thinking was just to alleviate some of the congestion, even the muzzleloader season, and then the mid-season, which overlaps with the rifle deer. So, 30 cows, we could probably pick them up in a late season or something. Any other specific
Any other
questions?
questions for Mr. Donham? You finished? Okay. Any other questions or discussion at this point? If not, I'm taking tabs in my own mind who's going to make this motion. So if there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
I can make a motion, but it may not be one that you want to hear. I'd like to make a motion that the resident elk antler and legal weapon hunts for Area 4181 as presented be adopted by the Commission as is.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, so the motion to approve Hunt 4181 is presented by the department dies for lack of a second.
I'll take a stab at the motion.
Well,
Commissioner
okay,
McMinch?
before we go there, I was going to second for purposes of discussion. I thought it would probably be easier to handle it this way. So, I have to admit that whole conversation, Tom, wherever I got buried somewhere as part of this conversation. So I understand what Elko is proposing, and I guess I want to back up and start maybe a few steps back. What are the concerns, Mike, if we go with the 2016 quotas for 061, 071, early, mid, and late, and then back to the 2015s for that Elko would like to go back to the 2015s in the respective Elko units?
My take is it comes down to us trying to balance the lack of our meeting the population objectives today and tomorrow, and then our hunter congestion issues that we have in the field. We've got the livestock industry says, hey, we need to be true to these population objectives, but over the next few years we're going to have a lot of people hitting the field, and we're just trying to find ways to still take bites out of all those elk herds and keep lowering them. Maybe not lowering them at the rate that other people would like, but we're moving in the right direction. We're doing this instead of this. And at the same time, trying to alleviate a bit of the frustration that especially our Area 6 deer hunters have had with, and even some of the Area 7 deer hunters in that October rifle season, and shift those tags. So we're in a box, and we're trying to make that compromise of will you give us a couple more years to get these herds down?
Okay,
for example, 06268, the population objective is 500. We're estimating at 850. We were at 1,200. At this rate, it might take us 5 more years to get down into that 500, 550 range. If we keep stair-stepping this rate. And if we go with higher, we'll get there sooner.
At the NDOW's proposed rate is what
we'll get there, but it won't be as fast.
Elko is just trying to get there a little faster.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
And that's obvious. But
so we're trying to minimize the unhappiness of our hunters a bit, trying to moderate that.
And you feel that this would address some of the hunter congestion issues that you're trying to manage. And your comment that if we're going to go with something that Elko's proposing, that we definitely pay attention to the opening of the deer season in area 6 or 062, 064, that area.
Yeah, I mean, if you
if that's the direction,
have it in your heart to compromise between the reductions that we want and the increases that Elko wants, if you're going to increase them, if you could increase them not in that October 5 period, we appreciate it.
So the concern from Elko then, the real crux, Elko is, the concern for the Elko County Cab is that there's a need or a desire to expedite getting to the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
And that was part of the whole conversation, and that's so what happens if that doesn't happen?
What happened?
I mean, I guess
Personally, I'd rather say it's myself, not speaking on behalf of Elko Cab. I would have rather stayed with the department's recommendation.
that helps me understand a little bit.
Personally, that's where I wanted to go with it. The others did not. They want to go faster.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I'm saying is that it you know, the faster pace, I get it. Some of those are, you know, on the smaller quota are fairly minuscule, even for the, you know. So okay, that helps a lot.
So is that, just quickly, was that a 4-1 vote then, or what?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Donovan?
Yeah, just real quick, Mike said maybe 5 years to get to the population objective. Actually, carrying that model out in the harvest, Matt's thinking 2 years to get there, maybe 3 at the outside. Like I said, the only difference is like 30 dead elk. So I don't think it's going to expedite it that much. No, you know, not falling on my sword here, but it will be probably 2, maybe 3 years to get to that objective, not 5. So.
I appreciate you guys rehashing the conversation for me, because it does make it a little bit easier for me. I'm definitely starting to trend more towards the department's recommendations, simply because, you know, with all due respect to the Elko Cab and their desires, I think that the conflict with the potential, I mean, we have a lot of people in there, and for me, it just seems that that's I'd rather draw it out another year or two, or you know, whatever might happen there, than end up with, you know, more hunter congestion problems.
Yeah, a bunch of them may just end up in Humboldt County, so.
They may.
That's only funny today. It would not have been funny yesterday. And maybe it's not funny today. I guess where I land on it is I appreciate the department trying to balance a lot of new tools and hunts and the combination hunts. And I can appreciate where Commissioner Morai's coming from. I guess the 2 areas that I most struggle with in terms of the Elko Cab recommendations is that 6 mid. And I think I'd rather see if the combination hunt strategy works maybe a little bit better, because we've kind of been nibbling around the edges of it. We haven't really fully committed to trying to shift that issue with congestion. And maybe Commissioner Morai's right in his assessment that it won't do that. And I kind of thought that the 7, you know, all the 7.2 to 7.5 stuff made sense in terms of trying to shift towards the more successful hunts. But I just wanted to put that out there before we get another motion on the floor. Commissioner Morai?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do understand that the congestion kind of throws a snag in things. However, when we're putting that many more tags, it's interesting that in one hand you're saying about the wanting to throw more tags in the higher success hunts, which is exactly what this other plan does. Yet if we go with the, because I think that these are connected, since these tags are made up with the delta tag.
Right.
575 of them.
Yeah, we doubled, yeah, basically.
So here's the point that I want to make, is that Matt Jefferson Elko's the biologist for this area. I think he is excellent. And I've spoken with he and Tom. And I think it's just a little bit different point of view as to how to reach the same end. So, you know, I don't want to make a big issue of it. However, I do believe Commissioner McNinch's statement is, although it's accurate, Dave, whether we get there in 5 years or whether we get there in 3 years or whether we get there in 2 years, if you're the landowner that lives there, there is a difference between getting there in 5 years or 3 years.
I understand that, and I guess when I heard 2, possibly 3, that helped me maybe settle in where I was starting to settle in. If it was 5, then I would have certainly, you know, that rub would be more significant, I guess, because I'm not sure that we're going to get there any quicker going this route, and it might come. I don't know. I understand.
And to add to that, here's the point that I want to make is and I'm not going to make the motion because no, I'm going to leave it because here's when I proposed this to the Yelko Cab, it was in the vein that this is the information. You guys evaluate it. I didn't want to have any influence on what their decision was. And I feel the same way if this commission decides that they think that that's the best way to go with using the DELC tags and going with this year's quote on and going against the Elko Cab recommendation. I guess I'm saying I may or may not support that.
You really threw us under the bus there. Okay.
I make
Help
one
out now.
Discussion. Yep.
One point is, I want to make sure that you understand that we looked at the sale of those cow management DELC tags last year, and I think we may be a bit disingenuous that we were going to try to use those cow management tags to get the job done. But the way people apply for deer tags, they have 5 choices. We're probably going to have a lot of people check the box for Area 6 because there's so much demand for Area 6. No matter how many tags we throw at the cow management, we're not going to sell them all. And Tom and I kind of recalibrated what we likely could sell, and instead of thinking we possibly could sell 1,100 cow management tags and 6 with everybody who gets a deer tag, we may only sell 600-700. So I think right out of the gate we probably couldn't use the cow management strategy to offset all the other reduction in tags. So we'll admit that.
Understood. Any additional questions? Commissioner Johnston, do you have a question? Okay. Who wants to take a stab at the motion? All right, I'll try this. At risk of being within arm's length of Commissioner Moras.
Maybe I do have a question. So if I go back to the DELC tag. So the proposal from the department is to take the DELC tag and we're calling it Big 6, right? From 575 to 1,150, which matches the department's recommendation for the number of deer tags. So basically, anyone draws an early Area 6 tag and selected the option, they're going to get the cow tag attached to it with it, right?
In theory.
But I think what we heard is not everybody selects that option, so you're probably not going to issue those 1,150 cow tags along with the deer tags.
Yeah, because last year we had 575 cow management tags for the 062 unit group, Big 6. We only sold 540. So there's still 30 some of those tags left on the table. So as you increase you'll continue to leave tags on the tables.
So if that's being the case, I think we need to bump up the cow elk tags in cow hunt to achieve the management level, get to the population levels that the department wants, that the landowners want, that is the population levels that are set forth in the management plan, right?
I will also
Now,
admit,
sorry.
I would also admit that Commissioner Morai is probably right. Even though there's not an extra person with that cow tag, with these cow management tags, they probably do spend a few extra days in the field than if they were to kill their buck and go home. If they would kill their buck, then they'll stick around and try to kill the cow.
I guess, yeah, where I'm kind of tracking on this is I don't really have an issue with big 6 early at 305 and big 6 late at 150 or even higher on that back end, but I think that middle season being at 20 and seeing because at that point we're still, I think our most successful hunt's going to be that early hunt. So I think, in my mind, it's kind of a good middle of the road trying to address whether the combination tag strategy works or not. I mean, we're only talking a 50 tag difference, and we're still piling a whole bunch of tags early where we have our highest success rate.
So you're saying put 305 on the early, 20 on the mid, and 150 on the late?
Right.
Okay.
Chairman Drew, what do you think of
200.
325 on the early, the 20 on the mid, and the 150 on the late?
That or 305, 20, and 200 if you want to make up that extra 50. Just because in that late season, that's the only hunt.
What's the winner going to be like?
You tell me.
I think that's the wild card.
Right. But you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
And then you're saying, what about the rest of those that Elko County wanted to go with 2015 numbers?
I don't have too much heartburn with it, with the exception of the 7.2 to 7.5 set, just because I know those are some challenging units, given I think those are the units we have all the private land issues with, if I'm not mistaken. So I think they're just trying to figure out the best strategy and where to put those tags to where you're maximizing the success. And of course, you get into that late hunt, and Grant asked the question, what's the winter going to be like? If I knew that, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. But so I can see it both ways. That was my biggest concern, was the big 6. So everything else to me is all unintended 6s.
So, Jeremy, are you saying the big 6 is 061, 071 early, mid, and late?
062, 064, 066 to 068, early, mid, and late.
Okay, so I see. And you're saying, so the change would be from 225 to 305?
Correct.
Stays at 20 for the mid, and then from 110 to 200?
Right. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
I myself, Commissioner Drew, would be happier with a 325 maybe on that early one.
Okay. I would entertain that motion.
Do you want me to try that again? Can I make
Whoever wants to take the stab.
Okay.
Commissioner Hubbs?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion for the resident elk antlers, any legal weapon hunt 4181, and to adopt it as is, except for the Big 6 region 062, 064, 066-068 early, mid, and late, replacing the early season of 225 with 325. The mid season would stay the same from 20 to 20, and the late season would change from 110 to 200.
Okay. And no other changes as recommended by the CAB on any of the 7 areas?
That's correct. No other changes recommended by the CAB.
I'm going to second for purposes of discussion.
Okay, so I have a motion by Commissioner Hubbs and a second by Commissioner McNinch to approve Hunt 4181 with the following changes. 626466 to 68 early would go from 225 to 325, and late would go from 110 to 200, and everything else would stay per the department recommendations. And my understanding in 7 is it's more an allocation. The way I'm looking at this, it's more where those tags are allocated and not so much a huge difference in the anticipated harvest, unless we have some epic winter or no winter, or which could definitely happen if that. Am I stating that correctly?
It'll actually be a fewer dead elk on the ground, but a larger proportion of the actual herd, if that makes any sense.
Right. Okay. Further discussion on the motion?
So, Mr. Chairman, so I had 2 areas that I wanted to ask about. So on the 062, 064, 066 through 068 late, I think before we move forward, I'd feel a little more comfortable moving that down to 200, but I'll get to that. From 200 to 175 in the proposal. That kind of keeps it a little bit closer to the total number, I think, that was under the 2015 quota. And then under the 072 through 075 late, the 475. Mike, is that, help me out with that one. The 2015 recommendation was 425, 475. There's a little bit more of a little more significant difference there. And where's the department? Help me out with that one.
Well, that late season, which incorporates all the main units in that garbage herd, is our most successful. If you look at the early season that starts October 1st, the mid-season starts October 11th, and this one that's November 22nd, that had the higher amount of success. So that's why we increased that up to 475. And drop.
And typically what happens there, Mike, if I'm not mistaken, is hopefully when we have a winter, those elk come out of the wilderness area and are more accessible.
Yeah, I mean, people probably this year, I've had that tag 2 out of the last 4 years, and you could get into quite a bit of the garbage versus, 6 years ago you couldn't. But if the hunters can't, chances are the elk will migrate down into 7.3 and 7.4, which are much more accessible to the hunters in that lower burned out country, the Hanks Creek and Beaver Creek and all that country.
And in terms of 7.2 early and mid, is the thought there in the reduction of some of those early tags? I mean, there's allocation later, but is part of the calculation that goes into that also the amount of pressure we're putting on in that same time period with the wilderness only tags? I think last year was the first time we implemented that.
I don't think so. It was actually a very successful wilderness hunt, and certainly the people with a normal tag can go knock themselves out and go into the wilderness, but I don't think there was any conflict with those additional 200 tags. We were pleasantly surprised the success of that hunt, and they weren't bumping the other hunters that normally drive around.
Okay. Additional discussion on the motion?
So I had back that 072 early and 072 mid. So are you suggesting that you still feel more comfortable leaving it at 225 and 150 respectively, or that you wouldn't have concerns moving those up to back to where the 2015 was?
No concerns.
So did you want to?
I am going to
motion to amend.
I'm going to ask for a friendly amendment just for the one for now, and then I'd really like to hear from Commissioner Morai. But if I could ask the Commissioner Hubbs, on 062, 064, 066, 068 late. If you'd accept a friendly amendment to change that, going from 110 instead of going to 200 to go to 175.
Chairman Drew, do I need to completely start my motion again, or can I simply accept the amendment to the motion?
I think if you're willing to accept that as a friendly amendment, that it's coming from the second, so you can certainly do that.
Okay, then I definitely will take that amendment to the motion, changing 062, 064, 066, 068 late, changing that number originally at 110, then to 200, and now finally to 175 as proposed by Commissioner McMinch.
And also the seconder of the motion, so I'm not going to ask if you're all right with it. And then, Dave, did you have additional?
No, not for now.
updates?
I'd like to just hear from the other commissioners, see where if we're getting closer to.
Commissioner Morai, where's that leave you?
I'm fine. Because I think it does accomplish not putting more hunters in the field. The question in my mind, and the question was in my mind, is that what are we, you know, we're gonna, if we pass this, I'm good with it. I'm fine.
Okay.
I think I'm where you're at,
I don't-
Commissioner Moore. I've got questions about the next one here where we
Right.
go to 4418. I don't know. I've been trying to process it. I think that having that conversation in a minute, I don't know. But I hear where you're at.
And I don't, the thing that I don't want to go, I don't like going against Elko Cab's recommendation. However, the point was made that these numbers are pretty close.
Yeah, I guess that's my biggest thing, is it's not an enormous change. It's more of a shuffle to me than it is a significant change. So I guess that's why I would be supportive of the motion at this point, personally. Any other discussion or question? Do I need to reiterate the motion?
Please.
Is everyone, okay, so basically where we're at for Hunt 4181 is accepting the department's recommendation, with the only changes being to 6264, 66 to 68 early. We would now be 325, and late would be 175. And at this point, those are the only two changes to the department's recommendation. So we would not be accepting Elko's proposed changes, basically everything on page 2, including 072 early on page 1. And that gets back to the discussion about kind of a reshuffling of which season those tags are in versus a wholesale change in the overall number. I think there is a change, but to me, I don't think it's a significant one. Does that clarify it? Where we're at? Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Now we'll get to the bottom of page 13. So resident elk, antlerless, any legal weapon hunt, 4181 wilderness only.
No alternative recommendation.
Okay, questions? Mike, I just had one. Generally, and I didn't look at this in my book and on my read, but last year our success rates were kind of a pleasant surprise how good they were. Does that continue to be the trend, or was there any significant change this year?
Well,
Or give me a page number in the book where I can.
if you look at A32, I think 072 was 29%, actually in the bottom of A31, 29%. 29%, which was the same as the early season outside of the wilderness. Some of the other unit groups were really good success. Central Nevada, on the next page, A32 is 46% wilderness hunters, whereas the normal hunt was only 31%. 222 is 50%. 231 had a great wilderness success rate, 43% on the wilderness units in 231. So there are people willing to backpack in and make it happen.
Additional questions for Mike? Seeing none, County Advisory Board input. I don't think there are any changes. Okay, public comment in Las Vegas on wilderness.
No
only
public
cattle
no public comment in Las Vegas.
hunt. And Elko,
No comment.
and in Reno. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Any further discussion or question? If not, I entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve elk antlerless any legal weapon hunt 4181 wilderness only hunt as presented.
Second.
So I've got a motion by Commissioner Wallace and a second by Commissioner McNinch to approve hunt 4181 wilderness only as presented by the department. Is there any question or discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. That will get us through page 13. So we'll address page 14. Let's try to get both hunts on page 14, Mike. So we'll have the antlerless management hunt, the elk hunt, and also the resident antlerless muzzleloader. I don't think there's changes there. So.
Yeah, the only, there is no alternative recommendations also for the archery hunt, 4111, but we do have cow management hunts. Each of those weapon classes. I guess you could do them all. You could do muzzleloader, cow management. Let's just do rifle.
Yeah, let's do rifle, and then we'll pair the muzzleloader
Muzzleloader and archery all together.
Yep. Okay, so the option hunt 4481, I had a note from Elko that there was a change on 101 to 103 hunts.
Yeah, for the muzzleloader. For the muzzleloader. But not for the rifle.
Okay, any questions on the top of page 14? Okay, county report input. Public input in Las Vegas. And Elko.
No comment.
Okay, in Vegas you were no comment, correct?
No comment.
And in Reno? All right, bring it back to the board on hunt 4481.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve resident elk, antlerless elk management, any legal weapon hunt 4481, the option for mule deer hunt 1331 as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Wallace, second by Commissioner Morai to approve hunt 4481, which is our option hunt for 1331 as presented by the department. Any question or discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. So we'll work with page 14, the regular muzzleloader hunt 4176, and the companion mule deer muzzleloader hunt 4476 on page 15.
And I would entertain, let's throw in antlerless archery and its companion cow management.
All four?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the only alternative recommendations, which was actually probably a faux pas on our part, was on top of page 15 for the 4476 elk management option for 1371 hunt for units 101 through 103. We would ask that quota be 150 instead of 225. 150 is the recommended deer muzzleloader tag quota for Area 10. So we're going to match it up equally. And then the same, going down to the very bottom of page 15, the cow management hunt for the archery, 4411, 101 through 103, late. The early's okay. The late just shifted from 20 to 15. We only have 15 tags for the late archery hunt for the deer hunt.
Okay, everyone all right with those two changes? Any questions? Okay, County Advisory Board inputs?
Fern Winder, Elk County. Those were the only two changes that we had there, was the 101 through 103 late to match the number of deer tags. And on the resident 4411, the same thing as we voted to take it back down and match the deer tags.
Okay. Is there any public comment? Any other cab comment? Public comment in Las Vegas
No comment.
and Elko
No comment.
and Reno. Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Is there any further question or discussion? Okay, so what I'd be looking for is a motion for hunt 4176 on page 14, and then all three hunts on page 15.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll move to approve the resident elk antlerless muzzleloader hunt 4176 as presented. Resident elk antlerless elk management and muzzleloader hunt 4476, option for mule deer hunt 1371 as presented, except that for unit group 101 to 103, the quota would be reduced from 225 to 150. That we approve the resident elk antlerless archery hunt 4111 as presented, and then the resident elk antlerless elk management archery 4411, option for mule deer hunt 1341. Except that as presented, except for the 101, 103 late, the quota be set at 15 rather than 20.
Okay, and your motion also included hunt 4176 as presented?
Yes.
Second. So I have a motion by Commissioner Johnston and a second by Commissioner Wallace to approve hunt 4176, elk antlerless muzzleloader on page 14. And then on page 15, hunt 4476, option for mule deer 1371, as well as resident elk antlerless archery hunt 4111, and antlerless elk management archery 4411, option for mule deer hunt 1341. So what we're approving is 4 hunts, and the only change would be on 4476 to unit 101 to 103, we'd be at 150. And on 4411, same unit group, we'd be moving down from 20 to 15. Is there any questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.